Good morning, bookish friends and fantasy/classic lovers. Today is the day I'm going to start filming this vlog. I already started the book. Right after I finished the first one, I couldn't wait. But then I had to stop because I didn't have time to film. So I stopped reading until I was able to read and film at the same time, which is the point of this vlog. Now I've restarted reading the book. I haven't done much progress, and I already have some thoughts to share with you right after this short intro. This book doesn't seem at all like what I was expecting, and I'm not talking about the events because I already know what was going to happen from the last scene of the first book and from the films. I'm talking about the style, the writing style. It almost seems modern, maybe because the book is starting on a high note. There's a lot of action from the first chapter, and I'm very excited to see what's going to happen because it definitely seems different from the films. So I'm expecting different things from the films, different scenes and different turn of events. First, a quick recap on how this book starts. The story starts with Frodo and Sam gone, Boromir died in battle, and Merry and Pippin kidnapped by the orcs. Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli decide to go after them. A human, an elf and a dwarf are off on a mission. When Aragorn said, "Forth the three hunters," that was an exciting moment. It was like a promise of a swashbuckling adventure, which is something that I greatly enjoy. Great opening chapter. Hi, Magna. So here are some of the things that I noticed so far in book 2. First of all, the beautiful imagery still amazes me. Such beautiful use of words to draw a picture. Sometimes I would read the line more than once just to appreciate it. Things like only Legolas still stepped as lightly as ever, his feet hardly seeming to press the grass, leaving no footprints as he passed. But in the way bred of the elves, he found all the sustenance that he needed, that he could sleep, if sleep it could be called by men, resting his mind in this strange path of elvish dreams, even as he walked open-eyed in the light of this world. The falling stream vanished into a deep growth of cresses and water plants, and they could hear it tinkling away in green tunnels down long gentle slopes towards the fens of Entwatch Vale far away. On the right of the stream there was a long slope clad with grass, now grey in the twilight. No trees grew there, and it was open to the sky. Stars were shining already in lakes between shoals of cloud. Music. And speaking of the modern style of writing, in page 64, Treebeard is saying something, and then the narrator says, "He made a deep rumbling noise like a discord on a great organ." Obviously, there shouldn't be such instruments in this world. There is a subtle, omniscient voice when Pippin is talking to Treebeard, when Treebeard is asking about Gandalf. So Treebeard is saying, "But you speak of Mr. Gandalf as if he was in a story that had come to an end." So Pippin says, "Sadly, the story seems to be going on, but I'm afraid Gandalf has fallen out of it." Also, there's a part that explains how Ents are like, and it seems very similar to the trees in the world of Narnia. I do not understand all that goes on myself, so I cannot explain it to you. Some of us are still true Ents, and lively enough in our fashion, but many are growing sleepy, going tree-ish, as you might say. Most of the trees are just trees, of course, but many are half awake. Some are quite wide awake, and if you are, well, getting Entish, that is going on all the time. The conversation with Treebeard is somewhat interesting, but it went on for too long. I understand that trees take too long to say something, but this chapter, it almost made me DNF the book, to be honest, which is something I never like to do. Treebeard gives us details about the world, but the most important thing was what he said about Saruman. The idea to do something about Saruman's evil was Treebeard's, by the way, not the Hobbits like it was in the movie. This chapter ends with the March of the Ents, which sounds quite interesting on audio. So far, I don't think this book is for everyone. If you don't read classics and you want to start reading classics, I don't exactly advise you to start with this fantasy. Because fantasy has an added difficulty. Beside the fact that classics are already known for having a lot of descriptions, in fantasy there is an entire world that is very imaginative and different from our world that needs to be described. And if you are used to reading just fantasy, this book is going to be different from what you are used to. Because it's a classic, it's very different from modern fantasy. And even if you love the movie, it's still not guaranteed that you are going to love this book. But still, every now and then, there will be a scene that is very well written, that will make you very happy that you picked this book. So don't take my word for it. If you have this book available, try reading it and tell me what you think. I'm going to end the vlog here, but first there are still a few thoughts that I want to share with you. As I said, this book was different from what I was expecting. I was expecting a continuation to the events of the first book, but this book is definitely more epic. We still follow the same characters, but separately, because the fellowship separates at the end of the first book. At the start of the second half of this book, there is the attack on Helm's Deep, and this is when I started to regain my enjoyment of this book. There was this moment when they were preparing for the battle in Helm's Deep, and there was the mentioning of swords' names, and I was like, okay, I'm going to like this. This is why I like epic fantasy. And yes, this chapter turned out to be great. My favorite chapter. This moment when Gandalf showed up at the end of the battle was just as exciting as it was in the films. But again, the trees reminded me so much of Narnia. And this part with the trees was different from the films, of course. Not just this part, there was always a word or a sentence that would remind me that j.r.r. Tolkin and c.s.Lewis were close friends. Apparently they inspired each other's works a lot. The role of the trees was much bigger and much more three-dimensional than it was in the film. Still, the scene when the trees drowned Isengard is one of my all-time favorite scenes. The trees defending nature and defending their world. Release the river.
Wake the dead! Release the river!
I loved the description of the moving forest, and of course Gandalf's description of the caverns of Helm's Deep. Legolas doesn't care so much for it, but Gimli absolutely loves it, as any dwarf should. The story definitely starts to pick up after the second half of the book. One of the things I wasn't expecting was that Frodo and Sam do not show up until the second half of the book. I always thought, after watching the films, that Frodo was the main character of the story, but in the book it feels that all the characters are the main characters, which is something I really enjoy in books told in this way. I feel this makes the story more diverse. I prefer this over the books where you are inside the mind of one character. You see all the events and everything is happening through the eyes of this one main character, which in my opinion is sort of a waste, because the perception of the events can be very different according to which character you're following. So if you're following a serious and a brooding character, the events might seem dark, and if you're following a cheerful character, the events might seem more bright and promising. An omniscient kind of narration allows the story to be more colorful and makes use of all the characters that have been created, and also gives the readers a chance to see the story through their own point of view and form their own opinion about the characters. This video has been the hardest one to film so far because of personal problems. The last video I uploaded was almost last year, so it has been a year, but I hope I don't take too long to upload the next video. And because I don't post videos very often, please don't hesitate to leave a comment on any of my older videos if you happen to watch any of them. I read and reply to all comments anytime. And if you're still watching this video, maybe you can leave a comment with your thought about the book and or any suggestion you might have for my channel. I would really appreciate this. I leave all my links in the description box. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.